partnerships. Microsoft announced efforts with a range of companies, including Reddit, UPS and China's Cheetah Mobile. In the Reddit deal, Microsoft's Bing search engine will use content from the online discussion community, including its popular Ask Me Anything QAs. Internal efforts on the Bing front. Microsoft is using AI to deliver answers that combine information from multiple sites, that can allow results that compare different arguments on an issue, explore the differences between two things, or just deliver a summary of facts from more than one place, with footnotes showing where the information came from. It is also making Bing more conversational and allowing people to search within images. With Cortana, Microsoft is trying to help its digital assistant stand out from a crowded pack that includes Apple's Siri, Google's Assistant and Amazon's Alexa. Microsoft's case is that it is the only digital assistant that stretches across work and personal life. To that end, Microsoft said Cortana can now understand calendar and other data from Google's Gmail. It's also building Cortana into Android apps, including the CM Launcher app from China's Cheetah Mobile. Microsoft is also expanding its use of AI in Office 365. A new Insights feature will automatically make charts showing trends within a complex spreadsheet. Within Word, AI will help make sense of acronyms within a document using other documents within the company. Microsoft already prioritizes which emails to read first, but a new feature will help find the action items within Outlook. "Surely you're kidding," wrote James Harvey, executive director of the National Superintendents Roundtable. "The percentage wage increase is better for high school graduates," he said, "but the dollar increase still favors the richer. 3.3% raise for someone making $20,000 a year is $660, only an eighth of the $5,000 raise going to someone earning $500,000 and getting a 1% increase." In a phone call, Upwork CEO Stefan Kasriel told me, "The 1% is doing a lot better, and for the 30% and 40% at the bottom, it keeps getting worse." Quick take: the times do indisputably favor the rich when adjusted for inflation. US wages are up only 10% from almost a half-century ago. Meanwhile, wealth held by the top 1% has surged. It rose to 38.6% of the total in 2016, from 36.3% in 2013, the Fed said in a report in September, while the bottom 90%'s wealth has fallen for almost 3 decades. Last year, it was 22.8% of the total, compared with 33.2% in 1989. For reader W. Spackman linked to this July report by Deloitte, which said income inequality today is comparable with the Gilded Age of robber barons in the 19th century. Figure 3. And Charlie Allenson, a FAO reader in New York, made another point: many of those chronically not working are not getting back to work, namely, those more mature workers. Ageism rolls on. Personal example: people look at my website and love my work. They meet me, see the gray hair, and suddenly they're going in a different direction. This is a constant for me, and it sucks. But there are in fact signs of an improvement in the fortunes of ordinary people, and wages and salaries are among them, says Jed Kolko, chief economist at Indeed.com, the jobs listing website, who wrote the blog post on which we were reporting. In an email exchange, Kolko told me Harvey and Kasriel are correct to single out the vast concentration of income at the top, comprised largely of non-wage earnings like capital gains, interest and dividends, which combined are how the wealthy make most of the money. But wages earned for work are another lens into the inequality story, and in that realm, the gap indeed has narrowed. The shrinking wage gap is important to watch because wages and salaries are a large component of pre-tax money income, which includes interest, dividends and income from property. The Bureau of Labor Statistics puts the proportion at 76.8%. See pages 89 in this BLS report. The Fed, too, has noted the trend favoring less educated workers. According to a Fed report released in September, income rose from 2013 through 2016 for all income groups, after accounting for inflation, which was a change from the prior 3 years. when income was stagnant, but the highest growth, an average of 25%, was among families without a high school diploma in the 2010 to 2013 period. Income fell for these workers, the Fed said. Thought bubble inequality is not an absolute metric. If it were, ordinary people could legitimately lash out about wealth at the top regardless of how they themselves were faring. The rise of wages at the bottom and in the middle is slow, and the trend could halt. That is a point that Kolko makes. But it remains notable that the numbers are no longer going only in one inexorable direction. There are metrics pointing to growing wages and salaries, and more jobs for those whom the economy has been leaving behind. Bitcoin is up about 1,700% since the start of the year. Some attribute the surge to ordinary, if enthusiastic, investment, along with the forces of supply and demand. Others say it's a bubble, and that it will ultimately burst. Joe Borg, president of the North American Securities Administrators Association, a grouping of state securities officials, suggests it's the latter. This is a casino, he tells Axios, not an investment. The bottom line, Borg, who is also director of the Alabama Securities Commission, says he could be wrong, and that those who say Bitcoin is just another type of investment will be proven correct. But he sees worrying signs of a classic investment mania. Among the signs people have told him, they have taken out home equity lines of credit to buy Bitcoin. Those doing so, he said, are mostly millennials and young baby boomers. They seem to think anything electronic is a game, Borg said. There are entrepreneurs who run Facebook, and they put this in the same category. Thought bubble if Bitcoin collapses, which has been the normal course in big, sudden investment manias. The price is highly unlikely to go to zero, meaning a lot of people will still be in the money, but lots of people will lose too, including perhaps some who have taken out those home equity lines of credit. That there is a fever is indisputable. It is global, and especially heavy in Asia. Ordinary South Koreans are the most aggressive Bitcoin investors, in addition to Hong Kong, Chinese, Japanese and Vietnamese, report the WSJ's Stephen Russolio and Yun-Young Zhang. Together, they account for almost 80% of global Bitcoin trading. Other reminders of fevers past. Most of these Asians buying Bitcoin are the general public, not professional traders. At the point last week when Bitcoin went above $17,000, it was almost $25,000 in South Korea, almost 50% higher, the WSJ said. In other words, the trade is chaotic to the point of irrationality. At the FD, Isabella Kaminska writes today that even central banks are getting drunk on the collective cryptocurrency blockchain Kool-Aid. A point that increasing numbers of observers are making is that Bitcoin is only an investment with no other real-life, larger-scale utility. At least at present, Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies are too slow and cumbersome to serve as money. Their original purpose. In a speech today in Sydney, Philip Lowe, the governor of the Reserve Bank of Australia, makes the point that current fascination with these currencies feels more like a speculative mania than it has to do with the use as an efficient and convenient form of electronic payment. Senator-elect Doug Jones of Alabama on Wednesday said had a very gracious phone call with President Donald Trump, in which he was invited to visit the White House and congratulated for his stunning campaign victory. It was a very gracious call. I very much appreciate it. He congratulated me on the race that we won. He congratulated me and my staff in the manner in which we handled this campaign and went forward. And we talked about finding that common ground to work together. And he invited me over to the White House to visit as soon as I get up to Congress. Doug Jones at a press conference. However, another Uber employee testified last month in court that the presentation he gave on secretive communications, referenced by the former employee and Justice Department, was purely hypothetical. In fact, he and his team had no idea that Kalanick and the startup's founder communicated without leaving a trace until Bloomberg published an article detailing the tactics months later. Uber also argued in court that the former employee sought to extort money from the company after getting fired for poor Performance. Note the case was referred in May to the U.S. Attorney's Office for a potential criminal probe. Here's the full Justice Department letter. Doug Jones is the first Democratic senator Alabama has elected since 1992. His surprising victory continues the trend we've seen in other elections this year. Democratic voters are turning out in significant numbers and independent voters are leaning more toward Democrats. Axios' Alexi McCammon breaks down why that should worry Republicans heading into 2018 more. From Trump. I'm here today to tell you that we will never let bad things happen with respect to the economy of our country. If Congress gets him a tax bill before Christmas, the IRS said Americans will start seeing lower taxes and bigger paychecks beginning in February. Somebody else called me and everybody else the deplorables. We're proud to be the deplorables and we're doing well. Go deeper. The Republicans' looming Christmas deadline.